Welcome to Farm Source Seasonal Focus, created as a way to share knowledge and advice on the season ahead. We're vets, agronomists, vendor reps, our team of technical sales reps, and sustainable dairy advisors, but most importantly, fellow farmers, share their insights in an easily digestible way.
Kia ora and welcome to another Farm Source webinar Q&A, and we're talking animal monitoring as we're going into not only a busy calving season, but right behind it is our busy mating season. And there's a great time to talk around agri-technology and what's happening around new efficiencies of managing health and well-being with your cows. And we're joined with our partner Connecterra and the IDA product. It's a really interesting Amsterdam-based artificial intelligence company who created IDA, which stands for, believe it or not, Intelligent Dairy Assistant, which sounds like a really great thing to have on farm. IDA also collects behavioural data from sensors on the cow collars, which can be combined with data from other sources such as herd management software, digitally connected farm equipment, the weather, and farmers' feedback provided all within an app. It then translates the data into real-time, easy-to-understand insights. To get a more of an in-depth look into how this technology is helping farmers around the country as it is taking off here in New Zealand, we are going to be joined by members of the Fonterra and Farm Source team, as well as one of the very early adopters of IDA and working for the IDA team. I'll be your host over the next half hour or so, Sarah Perriam-Lamp. I'm really excited about this. I've been keeping a really close eye on the evolution of animal monitoring technology in New Zealand, and it's taking off at such a great rate of knots. There's a lot of variety between them, and IDA is definitely right up there in terms of what it has on offer and where the potential of where it can go as well. First up, we have Christian Valava-Rouge, who's one of the TSRs for Farm Source based in Canterbury, who's been working with the Connecterra Business Development Manager to introduce IDA to some of the larger dairy businesses around Canterbury. So he'll have a lot of insight in working firsthand with Canterbury farmers and facilitating the positive conversations and the benefits that's coming, particularly around labour shortage at the moment. It's a hotly contested topic. Secondly, Michael Shalcrest, known to many of you as Farm Source's Senior Veterinary Manager, with 11 years of clinical dairy practice working with dairy cows and almost 3 years of working alongside the Farm Source team. Mike is well placed to speak to us today on the changes that he's seeing in the advancement of technology and how that data can help us better understand our cows and their needs. And the early adopter we speak of, Chris Paul, a Fonterra dairy farmer in the Waikato, who was also runner-up in the FMG Young Farmer of the Year competition. So a smart operator with 720 cows in Porongia. In autumn 2019, Chris took on the initial trial of IDA, and as he says, no looking back, the fact that is so good, he's taken on a part-time customer success manager role with the team as well. Welcome, gentlemen. I'm going to start with you, Chris. Hey, the prize, it's the proof is in the pudding, and the fact that you've jumped on board with the team so much that you enjoyed your experience farming with the IDA collars. Can you tell us about your initial introduction to Connecterra and what led you to go down the path of introducing collars into your farm system?
Yeah, sure. So around the time of the trial, we were sort of looking at monitoring technology that was on the market. We had the opportunity to be the trial farm. So I thought it's probably quite a good way to get a bit of an insight into it without fully buying in initially and sort of see the benefits we could get from from the collars for our farming system. So initially it was quite a steep learning curve. Like putting all the collars on the cows is actually quite a big job initially. And because IDA is based overseas in shed systems, there was quite a lot of calibration that had to happen in early stages to sort of be used to our pasture-based system. So the cows are walking a lot more over here, whereas overseas, they're in the sheds all day. So there were a lot of differences, and it was pretty cool to see how quick all that calibration process actually took, and how quick it was to a point where it became really useful for our system. So yeah, it was quite a learning curve to get used to looking at the app and getting the information off a cell phone, as well as obviously looking at the cows. But yeah, it just opens up a door to seeing what the cows are actually up to 24/7 when, you know, in a busy place, you don't have the time to be in the paddock with them all day, every day. So yeah, I saw the benefits that we could get early on and was really keen to jump on board. And I guess taking the step to work for them, we were sort of in a position where we were keen to grow and maybe take on another farm or something a bit extra with the extra time we were given from having the Ida collars doing our matings for us. So when the opportunity came up to take on a part-time gig, it was, seemed like a good fit at the time, and it's, haven't looked back.
Interesting you brought up there around that barrier for setting up, because usually that can be a real sort of blockage in the mind of, but I'm already busy by the time I stop my current system to introduce this. I hope it's going to be worth it. Christian, on some of the large corporate dairy farms across Canterbury, labour shortage is such an issue right now that that barrier seems to disappear, right?
Yeah, no, that's right. It's quite an issue, like you say. There's not much people around to work on dairy farm. And we have a dairy farmer here in Hines, Daniel, who has the collars, and he decided to take off one of the labor. He doesn't need one person extra now because the collar is going to be doing all the mating, picking cows or mating time. And it's going to save some time for him and his family as well. Means he had more time to be with the family instead of to be just on the couch picking cows every morning.
Michael, I know there's a lot of trust issues amongst farmers, and it's a real hard thing to let go of, that the technology has got to a point that it will do as good a job as me standing on that vet stand. Are we at a point now whereby the technology is doing just as good a job?
I think the technology is, in some ways, is doing a better job because it is able to monitor the cows for a longer period of time, and it's not just mating. It's monitoring the cows 24/7, and so you can detect cows and calving difficulties in the middle of the night, that sort of thing. It's not just about the mating, and this stuff is getting refined at a pretty rapid pace, and so it's not even necessarily how good is it right now, it's also how good is it going to be in 12 months time, and then 24 months time. It's getting better and better, and I think it's going to totally change the way we farm in this country.
Very awesome and bold statement, and for the benefit of our under pressure dairy farms. Chris, being Amsterdam-based, and as Michael alluded to, the rapid pace of development, how can New Zealand dairy farmers feel confident in those different farming systems, with it being Amsterdam-based, and the rapid rate of change and development in technology as well, that will reflect the changes that might need to be made in New Zealand?
I have a lot of confidence in the company, just in the short time I've been with them, seeing how fast, like I said before, how quick they made that calibration to being useful in a pasture-based system was pretty mind-blowing. And there have been things that we've found on my farm, particularly with the app, that have needed to be tweaked or changed a little bit, and they've just happened so fast. So yeah, just seeing the things change as quick as they have, and even added features from over the 3 years I've had it, like the calving module has become so much more accurate. And that was sort of I don't understand all the data side of it much, being a farmer, but just seeing how quick it became more useful to me when it was a phone call of, this is going to get better, which will help you get more value of it. And then actually seeing it in practice, it gave me a lot of trust and faith in how quick they can actually get things done over there, which is exciting. And like Mike said, it can already do a lot now, but just seeing how fast things are happening in technology, there is a lot more it'll be doing really fast as well. So it's pretty exciting company to be involved with, I think. Yeah.
Michael, as a vet, and I know Chris, your wife, Emma's also a vet, but what is that early detection that we will save our industry if we can pick up on some of these animal health issues well in advance? Could this technology be great for?
This is a really interesting aspect of it, I think, and I imagine that Chris has kind of run into it as well. That these collars tend to pick because they're not making a diagnosis; they're just flagging that there's something wrong with this cow. So a person still has to go in and say, check her over and work out exactly what's wrong, and they are able to pick up changes in cow behaviour probably a day or two before you would in the paddock, and that means that they can be harder to diagnose. So again, it's going to change the way that you treat your sick cows, potentially. Cow comes in, can't work out what's wrong with her. Maybe you draft her and give her some, TLC for 24 hours before you try and make that diagnosis again. But talking to farmers about it who are using collar technology, they often will invest initially from a repro perspective. They think, this is a way to save labour, this is a way to improve heat detection, this is a way to make their lives easier over that stressful mating period. But actually, once you get past that, the big benefit is in all the other stuff that comes with it. The repro stuff is good. This other stuff is actually more valuable than they thought it was going to be.
Christian, what have you found in those turning points for farmers? Obviously, there's the entry there, as Michael said, but the excitement and how far they can take this technology.
They're quite keen. One of my customers asked me, the main object for him is improve mating, and then it's calving time. I can tell you when the cow are prompt to calve, and then when she calve, or if she having some calving issues, kind of what Mike said before, is going to tell you something's wrong with the cow, and then that farmers need to go and have a look on her, check her on the paddock, and it's kind of save you time, because especially on calving time, we are checking cows every between 4 to 6 hours, and then if they have this technology, they can relate on the technology. Means check your cell phone, say there's no issues, you don't need to go to the paddock, save your time, and you can use that time to do something else on farm, especially on the busy time. And the other part is, like Mike said as well, is health issue. Tell you the cow something's wrong, you can pick up the cow early on, treat it early, try to minimize the cost on antibiotics or something else. Even on the vet as well. Even Mike is a vet. And that's going to save you time as well. And it's about picking the cow early if something's going wrong. And then that way you can save some money on antibiotic or even on the vet as well.
There must have been some teething problems though. Chris, what were some of the learnings that you'd like to share that farmers don't fall into similar pitfalls when setting up?
Yeah. So it's opens the door to information that you've never had before. So it can actually be quite overwhelming. And as Mike said, you've still got to be a good farmer and looking at the cow as well. So this just gives you so much information, and it can be quite daunting when you do first look at it. But I guess the good thing it does is it is sifting through all the information, looking at it all the time, and it's delivering you an insight just of the cows that need to be looked at. So you can sort of look in as much depth or as little a depth as you want, and you'll still get the urgency animals that need to be looked at. So it's probably just more of a trust thing, and trusting the technology to tell you the animals that actually need to be looked at, and relying on it working in the background to give you those numbers of the cows that you need to look at. Probably the biggest thing second to that would be actually learning to rely on looking at the app, and it's quite difficult in early stages when normally if there's a cow that you check when you go home at night and she's just started calving, so I'll have dinner and I'll go check her later. It's quite hard to get your head around picking up your phone and actually looking at her sort of graphs of information and saying, oh, yeah, she's had a dip. That's always where the calving was. And then, it's picked back up. And you go down and check her to make sure in those early days, and yep, she's up, she's licking the calf, and she's actually eating again. And every time that is the case, her chances of getting milk fever have decreased massively because she is up and eating and being active again. So it's sort of getting your head around, using that technology and getting out of it what you actually can.
Is there any particular KPIs or metrics that you really focus on as the overarching ones before to try and deal with the overwhelm of the data?
I guess like it tells you when there's a sick animal or whatever. But yeah, it is still up to you to determine what is wrong with that animal. There's sort of, you get the individual animal information, but there's another part of the app where you can step back and see the herd information, where you can actually sort of measure some of those bigger KPIs, like a big one being how quick the cows have actually shown a first heat since calving, which is a good KPI for what your empty rate is probably going to be. So how quick they've actually recovered from calving. So there is that sort of ability to look at individual animal issues as well as stepping back and looking at the whole herd and then judging year on year. Have we improved? What do we do differently? They showed a first heat quicker. Was it because of this feed change or something like that? So there is a lot of information. It's sort of knowing what to do with it as well, which is probably one of the biggest things.
And Michael, from having a support network around the farmer, the ability for your advisors, your vets, to see the similar information, is there an ability to do that to help support with that overwhelm of information of what all this stuff means?
Yeah, I think that's right. So as Chris said, all of these collar or monitoring technologies kind of produce this sort of fire hose of information that if you wanted to dig into it, you could spend all day just looking at individual cows, activity levels or whatever. And the trick here is, or the thing that's going to differentiate or make the product useful, is that software layer that can distill out the important pieces of information from that, from that fire hose. These are the bits that you need to look at the time. And there is definitely a role there for rural professionals who are wanting to assist farmers. Talking about return to estrus that Chris was talking about there, all that repro stuff. There's a whole lot of stuff that vets want to be involved with, around repro consultations, and this produces that information that is so useful to help them give the farmer good guidance. If you've got a farm advisor who's looking at how changes in the diet change rumination rate, that's a really useful thing for the advisor to get that kind of real-time feedback on how those dietary changes are impacting the cows, as opposed to, waiting a week, checking the fat protein ratio in the milk as your kind of proxy. So I think there's an immediacy that comes with this, but there's also lots of information that, while it may not be interesting to the individual farmer, is very interesting to their rural support kind of network around them.
Christian, I can only imagine that FarmSource are keen to partner with suppliers that can help you as a TSR support farmers better as well.
Yeah, that's really important to innovate in this area as well, trying to help the farmers to be more accurate when they're making their decisions. And this tool is going to, like Chris is using it and Mike know as well, you can use really good information to make the right decision on the right time as well.
So therefore, Chris, I mean, there's the obvious that we've talked around initial animal health monitoring, potential for the evolution of IDA to help us around grazing management and variety of other things. What's something that you're most excited about that's potentially coming forward?
Yeah, I think quite an exciting thing is there's a lot of talk at the moment on decreasing the national herd size, and breeding companies are talking about breeding a more efficient cow so we can have less cows and do the same production. So I guess IDA will help fill the circle of information by giving us the cows that are, spending maybe less time eating to do the same production, or maybe it's the more aggressive eaters that get to the paddock and eat the feed quick that we want to be breeding off to help us reduce our numbers. So yeah, the more you think about it, there's more things like that where you think, this is probably going to play a part down the track. And yeah, it is really exciting for the industry, I think.
What do you think, Michael, where it can help us meet a lot more of our challenges, particularly around environmental sustainability and things as well?
That efficiency metric is going to become the important metric. If you look at what's coming with kind of government commitments, with industry commitments through He Waka Eke Noa, through the pressure that's coming on processors from our customers because they want to be able to buy low carbon dairy products from us. And I think all of the things that these collars can do, if you embrace them, they will improve your farm efficiency. So repro, great place to improve. If you can reduce the number of cows that, of empty cows, that's reducing your farm wastage, which is reducing the amount of emissions that are produced per kilo of product. If you can identify sick cows and get them back in the milking herd sooner, then that's less milk you're tipping down the drain. Like all of these little things are going to add up to over time to a massive improvement in production efficiency, which is what we need.
Absolutely. As soon as a price is put on per kilo of product of emissions created, that's going to make us focus so much more on these metrics and where these levers lie. So to have the technology right there to be able to make those really effective decisions will be huge. I know that you've been working with the Connecterra Business Development Manager, Christian. So how does it work if a Fonterra farmer wants to sign up? Because I know there's a lot of differing ways that you can be, come into the world of collars and how you can take that on board. How does it work for farmers with IDA?
Pretty much what I've been doing the last couple of months is having the first conversation with the farmer, see if they're interested to go into this technology. And if the farmers say, yeah, we'd like to have more information, and then I start to talk to the representative or the rep from Connecterra, and then I pass the detail between the farmer and the rep, and they start to go and they take the conversation forward. Like they do a presentation for the farmer, how IDA works on farm. They tell a few history, like Chris, like he's been using them in Waikato for a couple of years, and then they pretty much sign the deal between them, and then I'm pretty much the first person talking about the colors or tell them about the technology Fonterra is having for them.
Chris, what's been that real life-changing moment for you? I know that it's been something that's really made a huge difference. It's those tangible sort of well-being elements that you are able to pull back and trust and be able to have more time in your day. What's been like, is there any one of those sort of you stopped and realised how much it's changed your world?
Yeah, I think the biggest sort of recognition of how good it actually is was the last 2 years. Me and Emma have actually gotten away down to the South Island for a ski trip during mating, which was never possible before because you're in the cow shed heat detecting. So that's been really great because we're split calving. We have 2 matings every year. So leaving it up to IDA and the ProTrack gate to not only detect who's on heat, but then sort her out. You can just be there at the end of milking to decide who to mate the cow to, or if you've got to get away off farm, you can leave instructions for someone else there to say, these cows can go to this bull and job's done. You're not standing there or looking for cows each morning. So it's massive time saving up to sort of 3 hours a day in the morning right through that mating period. So yeah, it's huge, really.
Interesting point Michael made there, Chris. How have you seen IDA be used in more of a sort of wider corporate business with a lot of advisors and stakeholders looking at this information?
Yeah, so IDA's got another part to it called IDA Enterprise, which instead of looking at the individual cow, it sort of takes a step back and gives you information based on, like, from a herd level, and you can track changes within cows based on their days in milk. So you can sort of look at how cows are recovering post-calving based on how long they've been calved. And it breaks it down for age groups as well. So you can, at a glance, you can see how the heifers and 2-year-olds are comparing to the older girls. And maybe, whether you need to sort them out and give them a bit more special treatment. So yeah, it makes it really easy to look at not just the individual cow, but sort of step back and look at the herd level and compare year on year, how things are tracking, and even farm versus farm, how they're looking. And that's where the likes of your nutritionists and your vets and your farm consultants would have real value to add to give you a change, like a feed regime, and then to instantly see how it's affected the rumination and eating times for the cows. Like a lot of the biggest benefit I'm getting is, I know, Mike, you said, you get the cows out of the herd earlier, and quite often it's quite early for a diagnosis. But what we're actually seeing is, like, a lot of the time a cow drafts herself out because she's got a health alert, and you don't really, you don't straight away know what's wrong with her. But just from taking her out of the herd and putting her in the sick mob, she's milked on once a day, and a lot of the time they just sort themselves out, and within a few days they're back in the herd. And quite often they were probably on their way to picking something up, but just being taken out of the competitive environment, they were able to get over whatever it was on their own.
We talked there around the savings of treatment and more of a preventative approach. It must be quite good for, Michael, antibiotic resistance in our herds and reducing the amount of unnecessary drenching.
I guess the angle here is that if you can spot a sick cow sooner, you can either treat her differently in a way that heads off that disease. So, separating her out from the main herd, giving her some TLC, that may be enough for her to get back on her feet on her own. But even if it's not, and she does require antibiotic treatment, the sooner you catch an infection, the shorter the treatment required, or the less likely it is that you're going to need additional treatments, or you're going to have a treatment failure. So that I think that's a real advantage with technology like this, is that you pick up these sick cows sooner, which means they recover sooner, and you can use fewer treatments.
And you're seeing that, Chris?
Yeah, a lot of the times, cows will draft out with health alerts, and you look at them, and there's not always something obviously wrong, but our sort of procedure there is take her out of the herd and put her in with a sickie mob where she's only milked once a day. And, a lot of the time you pick up your phone and you look at that cow a couple of days later, and her rumination has actually picked back up again. So whatever she had just been taken out of the competitive herd environment, she's recovered on her own, and that was all she actually needed. So in some cases you can avoid even getting to the position where you do need to treat them.
Michael, what do you think we'll be having conversations about animal health monitoring technologies such as IDA in, say, even 3 years' time, of how it's revolutionised the dairy industry?
There'll be some metrics that it can measure that we have never talked about before, that suddenly become really important to how efficient the farm is. And, rumination rate is a great one that no one was really monitoring that before, but now it can just be done. And the data is there. No one's had to do any work. It's just there. And talking to farmers who've got this kind of technology, the thing that they say it does is it frees them up to farm again. So they're not spending time on menial tasks necessarily. They're able to think about how to optimize their farm, or how to be better, or how to spend more time with the family. Or go on a skiing trip.
Outside of school holidays when there's no crowds. Christian, what's been really amazing watching it be implemented across Canterbury farms for you?
Farmers are really the one they got the color, they're quite happy with them. Like they say, like Mike and Chris mentioned before, is like giving more time for them to do another stuff, and that's really important. And farmers are really keen to improve their numbers, like mating, calving result, and this technology, I think, is going to help them a lot in the near future.
Absolutely. I'm excited just as much as you are around what it's going to look like in the next even 12 months, as Michael put there. And it's awesome to have Connecterra with their IDA product in the New Zealand market, seeing great success being rolled out, firstly, of course, on Chris Paul's farm. And I'm sure that if farmers are keen, they can get in touch with you, Chris, to ask some hard, curly farmer questions. It's been awesome to have our 3 panelists today on our Farm Source Seasonal Focus webinar with our partner Connecterra and, of course, IDA. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us, and I hope that you found some valuable information and jumping into the animal health monitoring world of technology. It's been awesome having you. For more information, head to the IDA website, ida.io, or of course, talk to your local Farm Source TSR or store manager today.
Thanks for watching Farm Source Seasonal Focus. If you want to know more about the content featured in this episode, contact your local technical sales rep or talk to our store staff.